Apparently the Gollum game was not very well received. People don't like it. Who could have ever guessed that an entire game based off of the most useless, stupid character in Lord of the Rings wouldn't do very well? It's like if you had Star Wars and it was Jar Jar Binks, and the entire game was just him bringing cups to Qui-Gon Jinn, and it was, is he gonna drop the cup or not? Like, that's it. That's the whole thing. Oh, and then there's like a level at the end where you're in the Clone War and you don't have a gun, and you just have to make sure that the droids don't shoot you. Big fucking surprise, this didn't go over very well. Gollum's ultimately responsible for destroying the ring. He's not totally useless. No, he's not. Because it's stated that Ilúvatar only interfered with the events in Arda during the War of the Ring 2 times. Number 1, to bring back Gandalf and make him Gandalf the White. Number 2, making Gollum trip. He tripped him. Gollum didn't trip himself. Look it up, fucking idiot. Don't know what you're talking about. Let's watch this.
We can't find it. The precious is gone. We swear.
This looks like a game from 2013.
Whether it's a book, a movie, or a video game, creative works generally exist for a reason. Sometimes it's to delight, by entertaining with moving stories or fun gameplay. Other times it's to inform, by exposing the audience to different perspectives.
Wow.
Or it makes you think, with interesting ideas that challenge you.
The graphics for this fucking sucks, bro. Like, oh my god, this is awful. Jesus.
To consider or reflect. The Lord of the Rings Gollum, however, is a game that does none of these things.
What if he watches us, the Dark Lord? What if he sees?
Instead, it thrusts you into the role of the titular character without doing anything meaningful with his defining internal conflict, and sends him on a series of missions that are neither fun to play nor interesting to experience. The one...
Well, of course not. Because it's like, what does he do? He just sat there for 500 years looking at a ring and killing fish? And you thought you were going to make this interesting? You'd have to completely rewrite the whole story.
Question it poses is, why would someone want to play this?
It's a good question.
Grave disappointment.
Recommended GPU
Playing
is
as
3070.
Gollum sounded like it might have been a decent pitch for a game, since he's one of the more interesting and famous characters in J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy universe.
There's nobody, like, I wonder if anybody, like, I thought it could be interesting probably when it got announced, because it's like, what are they gonna do? But, yeah, I'm not surprised about this at all.
He and Smeagol are two sides of the same coin. The good person that was Smeagol was tragically corrupted by the One Ring, twisted into this pathetic creature.
It's like, it's an entire fucking video game. It's like a fentanyl addict going through withdrawal. Like, that's based, this is a, like, fucking, you know, class 1 drugs withdrawal game. It's insane.
His clammy, bare feet that you step into, ostensibly with the goal of regaining possession of the ring from Bilbo Baggins. However,
it's like, how is it, like, isn't it sad that you're playing a game where you know at the end of it you're gonna lose? It's like in Dark Souls where, like, you know whenever you finally get to Gwyn, he just kills you in one hit, and that's it. And that's it. He just throws your body over the fucking kiln, and game over. Try it again. Did you have fun?
Most of your time is spent experiencing Gollum's life as a prisoner during the years between The Hobbit and The Fellowship of the Ring in a linear, story-driven series of levels. Prison Simulator Mordor Edition is, sadly, less interesting than it sounds. Instead of a grand Lord of the Rings adventure, you are stuck collecting bits and baubles for forgettable NPCs.
Man.
And hiding in bushes from monotonous guard patrols.
I'll just call you ugly.
There are generally 3 parts to any level, ranging from uninteresting to just plain bad.
I feel like those games where it's like Duck Simulator or Goat Simulator, there's probably more impact the duck or the goat has in that game than there will be with the Gollum game.
There's the chores phase, in which Gollum goes from one waypoint to another to complete some menial task. There's always some conceptually different scenario, like crawling through small openings to detonate these explosives, but functionally they're all a series of marches across the same areas over and over again.
Sounds fun.
It never feels like there's any point to it, just busy work. It could be fun to...
Well, that's actually pretty accurate. I mean, Gollum just sat around and did fucking nothing. It's like, hey, you know, like, it's like, do you want to play as a 29-year-old loner? It's like you wake up and you can either eat Doritos or go on Reddit. Okay, all right, well, then now you want to... All right, so do you want to DoorDash Burger King or Taco Bell? And okay, all right. So do you want to watch YouTube videos or go back on Reddit? Okay. Do you want to go to bed now? Yes. Okay. All right. The next day, same thing. And like maybe every Friday you order a pizza.
Run around with Gollum thanks to his surprising sprint speed, but he had...
And you don't get to eat the pizza. It's just like a cinematic where it just fades to black and it says you eat the pizza.
Has a stamina meter that depletes in just a few seconds and takes far longer to replenish. Trying to get anywhere involves too little speed, too much waiting, and an unfortunate amount of hearing Gollum choking on his own breath. The platforming phases are more compelling, but still poorly designed. Spacious rooms with handles to climb, walls to run, and leaps to take bring a faster pace of action, but the loose and floaty way Gollum moves and the imprecise controls make it feel like something from the PlayStation 2 era. Having experienced a modern Assassin's Creed or Tomb Raider game, it feels far too easy to jump toward the correct point and still fall to your death because you drifted to one side or missed the part of the ledge that has the white line that establishes exactly where you can grab. The paths are rigidly defined and often involve blind jumps or best guesses at what the next intended handle is.
Wow. Wow, that fucking sucks. Oh my god.
Blind jumps or best guesses.
Yeah, he didn't quite get it, guys. Oh yeah, what an idiot. What a dumb idiot. He just didn't... Oh, he was right there.
What the next intended handle is. Rather than a thoughtful throwback, it comes across as outdated. A poor facsimile of classics like the Prince of Persia series. Finally, there are the stealth segments, which are simply bad. Anytime Gollum needs to go from point A to B undetected, it's going to be a slog. Enemies have extremely limited patrol patterns, are terribly nearsighted, and seem to suffer from acute rapid onset amnesia, forgetting Gollum existed not long after losing sight of him. These are issues that plagued mediocre stealth games 15 years ago, and it's jarring to see them in 2023. There's no cat and mouse game of outsmarting enemies using interesting abilities and clever level design as you do in something like Dishonored or Hitman. You just exploit their painfully obvious blind spots with no objective outside of reaching the designated point. Jesus. Gollum's only tools are his ability to sneak quietly, throw rocks, and disappear in tall grass or shadows.
Oh, what would they?
Because the enemy AI is surprisingly terrible, doing something as simple as clinging to this wall can make you completely immune to capture. Spotted by guards in the animal pits of Barad-dûr, just jump up here until they lose interest. Eventually, some of the orcs get crossbows, but even then, the threat is minimal. There's no combat per se, which makes...
There's no combat at all in the game, so all he does is just run around and die? How did this happen? How did this game get greenlit?
Sense because Gollum is no fighter when it comes to any opponent larger than a hobbit. You do have the option to strangle enemies, which is on brand.
Yeah, true.
But it comes with some odd caveats. First, it doesn't work on anyone with a helmet. This makes sense for someone in full battle regalia.
Wait,
Smeagol's
what?
grubby mitts wouldn't bend steel after all. However, What defines a helmet in this game is broadly open to interpretation. Like, whatever this is on this orc's head, is that a hat? It's anybody's guess, but there's a decent chance he's strangle-proof.
Let's have a little talk.
Also, strangling
Game
only
over.
applies to orcs. It makes sense you can't choke beasts like spiders, where would you even grab? But humanoid races like elves apparently have invincible throats, eliminating the only method to bypass enemies apart from the bat.
Oh, they got you again. I wonder, like, why would anybody play this? Like, you know how there are games that are like a power fantasy? Well, this is the opposite.
Add stealth. A few chase sequences change up the pace, though they are hit and miss. This wagon chase, where you dodge obstructions and archers, is legitimately fun. But this Crash Bandicoot-esque run toward the camera, where you run from an iconic spider, is miserable thanks to the imprecise platforming and inability to see obstacles until moments before you need to avoid them. It is frustrating to play as a character who is looking ahead and should see incoming objects, but not being able to see them yourself and die because of it.
Gollum.
Hardcore Lord of the Rings fans know Gollum himself is a complex character,
Yeah,
both
sure.
a victim and a villain, but that's not explored in any meaningful way in this story. There are occasional binary choices to answer questions or take action as Gollum or Smeagol, but it never felt like this altered the story or had lasting effects on Gollum himself. Sometimes there's a need for one side of Gollum's personality to convince the other to go.
It's just like, look at the graphics, man. Like, God of War 2 was better than this. Look at this. Look at his eyes. Oh my God. This is straight out of 2004.
Go along with plans, like when Gollum is hiding from an orc and a painting of the Eye of Sauron sends him into hysterics. The two choices were kill the orc, which Gollum supported, or the Smeagol-endorsed option to keep panicking.
Keep panicking.
Quiet. Yes, very, very quiet.
Picking the correct argument to win the debate from the multiple choice is exceptionally easy and makes it all feel pointless. It's not
Why would
very
anybody
interesting
pick
to look
Panic?
at either. Even with all the PC graphics options set to epic, places
This is epic?
like Barad-dûr look drab and flat, and the empty lifelessness of the Mirkwood stands out in an era of games where lush flora and fauna has become the norm. Gollum's model looks good enough, including
Bro, what do you mean good enough? The bird looks better than him. That bird definitely looks better than he does.
good enough, including his surprisingly detailed wisps of hair, and his mannerisms are well captured. But other characters suffer from distractingly stiff animations and a haunting lack of facial expression.
Oh my God, look at the beard.
The sound design, however, is strong.
Mustn't go into the tunnel. Too dangerous.
The raspy, almost choking speech of Gollum is well acted, as is the clearer and more timid Smeagol side of his personality.
Was it Deagle who found the precious? Don't listen to evil sorcerers, my love.
It sounds exactly like someone who saw Andy Serkis's performance in the movie trilogy would expect. Even small details, like the clammy sound of Gollum's hands slapping on different surfaces as he climbs or runs, or the reverberation of ringing bells in certain spaces, stand out as authentic, with impressive attention to detail. But even if it looked and sounded uniformly spectacular, Gollum would still feel pointless to play, and that feeling turns to despair when the technical issues crop up.
That's the thing, is like, why would somebody play this game? That's what I don't understand. Like, why would they go out of their way to play the game if they could not play the game and do literally anything else?
On 3 different occasions during this review, levels needed to be fully restarted. Once because of an unfortunately placed autosave,
What?
and twice because parts of puzzles were outright broken. So despite the solution being evident, there was no way to advance. They weren't fully game-breaking problems because restarting fixed them, but they were spirit-breaking. Playing through areas that were uninteresting the first time bordered on painful for a second go-round that never should have been necessary.
Jesus.
Finally, if for some reason...
Bro, that's so, like, I have to say, like, I remember playing, like, the Return of the... You remember the Return of the King game from, like, PS2 and Xbox? It was better than this.
You wanted to go through all of this again, there are hidden collectibles, but they don't offer any sort of rewards. Unless you count this as a reward. It...
Oh my god. As I said, this is like a game that you play if you like being cucked. You know, like, it's like, this is the equivalent of like, you know, you have games that are the fucking, like, power fantasy type games. Forgot to mention War for the game is behind a paywall. Wait, what?
What the fuck is that?
Wait, what?
Dude. That shit was like fucking Warcraft 3, just like people marching onto my tower.
What?
What the fuck?
That's so good. Look at that. Wow. That is...
How much was this game? I believe it was like $60 maybe.
60 fucking dollars. Oh my god. 50 fucking dollars.
just felt pointless.
And you
to
need
add
a
to this
3090
sad
for this,
hoard
or a
of
3070.
not so precious treasures.
Oxes build all their things with these, always nails.
The Lord of the Rings Gollum fails to provide a satisfying answer to the big whys. Why, of all the interesting characters in the Lord of the Rings lore, would anyone want to play an entire game as Gollum?
Yeah.
Why would one trade the solid action of prior games in this universe, like Shadow...
Why would anyone play this instead of anything else? Like, I don't understand.
Mordor
How did
for
this
busy
happen?
work, uninspired and frustrating platforming, and bad stealth.
This is like all of the worst things about real life, but it's in Lord of the Rings. You don't have any fucking money. You're ugly. Nobody likes you. The only things you have are a rusty spoon and a plate. And you can't get a job.
It's not clear who this is for or what it was intended to achieve.
Yeah.
What is clear is that it's not fun to play, and not something to recommend to any but the most curious and dedicated Lord of the Rings fan.
A 4?
Smells like foul eggs.
For more
Bro, if that's a 4, what's a 2? Like, I've got to know, like, what is a 2?
fantasy action, check out our reviews of Darkest Dungeon 2 and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Jesus.
And for everything else, stick with IGN.
Careful, mustn't look down.
Wow. That's sad. Yeah, good question. Yeah, is this game worse than Throne and Liberty? I actually think Gollum is better than Throne and Liberty, because at least in Gollum, you're only going to waste... You could only waste $50 on it, right? Like, that's the max that you could waste. Throne and Liberty, you can spend way more money, you know? This game is extremely lore accurate. Gollum's stay in that prison was very boring. The sunk cost must have been astronomical on this, considering they didn't give up halfway through development.
With everything we've learned about what it takes to operate this game at the level that you deserve, it's clear that we can't deliver on that original vision.